May 27th meeting of the Riverside Brookfield Board of Education. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Molo, we have a roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Caputo.
Present.
Mr. Durkin.
Here.
Ms. Gaska.
Here.
Ms. Ruska. Mr. Novak.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Zaylor.
Here. I apologize. Recognitions this evening. Dr. Fuentes.
Greetings, honorable board members of District 208 and Dr. Skinke, Superintendent. Congratulations to the 7 RB students who completed the YC2 program. YC2 is a youth philanthropy program offered to juniors and seniors across 4 high schools that fosters students' exploration of the local communities and the social issues within them, educates them on philanthropic theory, and involves them in assessing, organization, and distribution of grants. When you hear your name, please come on up. Tommy Bogdan. Arian Hernandez. Mirabel Lopresti. Congratulations. Proud of you. Valeria Martinez. Proud of you. Micah Matheny. Sophia Sanchez. And last but not least, Margot Super.
Congratulations, all of you. It's a great program. I'll say selfishly, my son did it a couple of years ago, and he had a wonderful time, so congrats.
10 RB students have passed the Adobe Certified Professional Exam in Photoshop. This is a huge achievement, as having Adobe Photoshop certification is an industry-recognized credential and validates advanced skills in digital design and image editing. It's more than a test. It's a demonstration of professional level proficiency in a tool that's essential to countless creative technical careers. It is also worth noting that Sebastian Giblin received his Adobe Certified Professional Certificate in Visual Design in addition to his Photoshop certification. Congratulations to the following students. Alfredo Herrera. Gabrielle Derlet. John Duffy. Sophie Fingerhut. Sebastian Giblin. Michaela Hogue. Jaden Jemisola. Bennett Conan. Julian Solis. Congratulations, Julian. Proud of you. Lucas Stripikis. And of course, here's a face that I recognize again. Let's give it up for Micah Matheny. Congratulations. And now we have a guest of honor. I would like to invite their teacher, who this was accomplished, Ms. Patty Sarkady. Come on up, Ms. Sarkady.
Hi.
I am Patty Sarkady. I teach the business and technology classes here at Riverside Brookfield High School. And it's with great pride and excitement that I stand before you today to recognize an outstanding achievement by a group of students, the successful completion of the Adobe certification exam in Photoshop. And as Dr. Freitas had said, Sevi had also received his Adobe Professional in Visual Design as well. This is not just a tool. Adobe Photoshop just isn't a tool. It's an actual global standard in digital editing and digital imaging. It provides students to demonstrate more than just the technical skill. It actually reflects their dedication, creativity, and problem solving. These students have proven that they can navigate industry standard software with confidence and creativity, a skill set that opens doors in fields such as graphic design, social media, photography, and marketing, and so much more. So if we could please congratulate them on their amazing achievement.
Last but not least, congratulations to the math team on qualifying for the ICTM state competition at Illinois State University. The RB math team had an overall score of 135 and placed 32nd out of 58 teams in the Division III AA of the math contest. When you hear your name, come on up. For geometry, Joe Duffy. For Algebra 2, we have Sophie May. Ronan Pasimio. Mitch Shurman. Chloe Stezak. Wyatt Hoffman. And Isaac Lee. Still a little more. For the freshman, sophomore, 8-person team, we have...
Pre-calculus, did you skip pre-calculus?
I'm sorry? For pre-calculus, excuse me. We have Zach Rosenfeld. Zach? Next up, the freshman, sophomore, 8-person team. We have Ellie Dickerson. We have Wally Adenhoff. Kylie Reisen. David Santini. Alex Schurer. Joe Duffy. Addie Risha. Chloe Stezak. And last but not least, Sophie Dickerson. Honorable board members and Dr. Skinkis, that concludes our recognition. All the families and Bulldogs today, could we please step outside and take some pictures? We want to document.
Dr. Freitas, before we dismiss, can we do the student board members too, so that this way if those parents are here, we could do recognition of them as well?
Correct. And we do have one of our upcoming student advisors to the Board of Education. We'd like to recognize Hannah Buganis. Hannah?
So with leave from the board, let's take that out of order, and I think we do a voice vote appointment of the new student board members. Ms. Gaska?
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the appointments of Hannah Bugununos and Ariane Hernandez to serve as the student advisors to the Board of Education for the 2025-2026 school year, as presented in the May 27, 2025 board agenda packet.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was our second person who did the interview? Was that Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Novak.
No offense, Mr. Durkin.
I'll second.
Okay.
Novak, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations to you. We look forward to working with you in the fall. We'll be reaching out towards the end of the summer. And thank you once again for those who interviewed. And congratulations to everyone who had an award this evening.
Good job, everybody.
For a Board of Education member, Arian, our other student, he did email Dr. Skinkis and he had a family emergency. Okay, thank you. So hold on, so the family, can we step outside for the pictures?
Let's give them a second.
I feel comfortable.
Not sure if she was on.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for supporting your students tonight. We appreciate that. Going to move on. There's no president report. We can, Dr. Skinkis, once the room is clear, superintendent's report, please.
Yes, let me get to
Yeah.
reports.
And Ms. Malo, you see that Ms. Ruska has joined us for the evening. Okay.
So wrapping up the FY25, congratulations to the administration, faculty, and staff on another great school year filled with outstanding memories and accomplishments. The high school now shifts into summer school and summer camp mode. Aramark will begin summer projects, deep cleaning hallways and classrooms. The district administration will continue with the budget development cycle. The board will receive a first read of the tentative budget for fiscal year 26 in the meeting packet tonight. The board will need to approve the tentative budget in June. The final budget will be presented for final approval in September, but the tentative budget being approved in June allows the administration to purchase supplies, do payroll, all those things as we get ready for the upcoming school year. The staffing vacancies for next year are mostly filled, and most remaining openings are stipend related, so we should be in an overall good place from an HR perspective. There were a couple advisory council meetings that occurred since the board last had a superintendent's report. Technology and curriculum, which is Lorena Gaska and Laura Haruska. A meeting occurred on Wednesday, May 21st. The agenda included a summary of the curriculum guide review and the recommended changes to be brought to the board in probably August, once those changes are finalized for a read from the board. We also discussed the progress monitoring data for this school year. This data helps the building administration identify what students' interventions are needed for the upcoming school year and what curricular work may need to occur over the summer. The board will receive a more comprehensive report of the student data and interventions, as they always do in the fall, around October. At this time, Lorena or Laura, do you have any additional information you'd like to add?
It was a very informative meeting. I can report that there's a lot of work going into the review of the curriculum guide. It's very detail-oriented. It's been very comprehensive, and I'm looking forward to being able to share out with everyone in the fall. It's a lot of good work is happening.
I'm super excited about the breakouts that Kylie did on the dual enrollment and the explanations. She did the dual credit, the dual enrollment, the dual tracks, all of the different ways that we have the ability to earn extra credit while we're at RB. Super excited about the 3 new classes that are coming. One that I told her that's in the curriculum guide. It probably won't happen this year, but it's coming next year about this survey of careers for students to take, and the capstone project is you look for a career that you like. I'm hoping it rolls out soon enough for my grandson to take it. Again, super excited about the tracks, the career tracks. Several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Kylie was talking about internships. And we were kind of trying to get into that way of earning extra credit as an intern. Do you remember that, Dr. Skinkis, with the internships? And so now, with what the state is asking us to do with these career tracks, and we can now bring back that whole idea of doing the internships while maybe it's in culinary or might be in business or might pre-law or something, and incorporating that as part credit and getting real world experience. So like Lorena said, a lot of work went into, going through that curriculum guide, pulling out things, making sure the language matches with colleges, some real nice new offerings that are in there. So yeah, they had a nice conversation with Kylie to go through all that. Yeah, pretty excited about that.
So that's in August. That's in August.
Which fall meeting? The August meeting?
August meeting.
Okay.
I think that's the goal. I think.
There was a question mark. I was just wondering.
Yeah, we're going to shoot for August. The board will, the curriculum guide goes live usually October 1st or the second week of October, and then the students pick classes the second week of November. So we usually try to get that to the board by August, or so there's only one meeting in August, so definitely by September. The Facilities Advisory Council, Bill Durkin and Nick Novak, they're scheduled to meet later this week to discuss the facility rental agreement, receive a status update on the solar panel project, and also during Dr. Smetana's leave, Tony Rossi, the board may be familiar with that name, some of the existing board members, not the new board members. Tony serves as our client advocate from Nicholas & Associates, our construction manager. So he's going to touch base with me once a week just to kind of give me an update on solar and assist Berm in any summer projects that need to be addressed or additional assistance while Kristen's on parental leave. Finance Advisory Council, Deanna Zalis and Nick Caputo. A meeting occurred on Tuesday, May 20th. The agenda focused on the tentative budget being presented to the board tonight, so you'll get a very similar presentation that they received at the Finance Advisory Council later tonight from Dr. Smetana. Policy Advisory Council, again, we'll try to get something scheduled here for June or July. I am scheduled to do some traveling in June, so it may be more towards July. That packet needs to be approved in August, so we'll have plenty of time. And no updates on purchase, sale, or lease of land. We did not meet from Bill Durkin or Deanna Zalis. And that concludes the superintendent report.
Any additional questions or comments there? Okay. Dr. Smetana.
Good evening. Tonight I'll provide the board with financial information through the month of April, which represents 83% of our fiscal year. Beginning with the monthly summary report, you'll see the total operating revenue for the month was $1,690,974, with 31% from interest on investment, 23% from evidence-based funding, which is our state funding, and 21% from federal and state grant reimbursements. The total operating expenditures for the month were $2,222,717, with 84% towards salary and benefits, 5% on transportation, and 3% each on special education tuition and operation and maintenance costs. Moving on to the monthly financial statements, you'll see that the summary of revenues shows that the district has received 95.75% of our budgeted revenue for the year. This percent is similar to this time last year. The summary of expenditures shows that the district has spent 79.89% of the budgeted expenditures for the year, and it should read that this amount is slightly lower to this time last fiscal year, 82.6%. As always, I included the statement of revenues and expenditures both on the board side and as well as the activity accounts for the month of April. I have a few other additional informational items for the board tonight. The first is the paid facility rental third quarter report. This report includes any paid rentals during January 1 through March 31st of 2025. This quarter, the district collected $21,964.75 in revenue and expended almost $7,000. Of the revenue from the quarter, 43% of it came from facility space charges, with the majority of rentals from the stadium and auditorium. Year to date, the district has collected $55,242.50 and has expended $16,352.75. The surplus from rentals is used to offset the costs related to the upkeep of facilities. Keep in mind when you look at the line item in the budget, the amount will actually be a little higher because we had some paid rentals from last year that hit this fiscal year. Facility projects, I wanted to update the board on 2 projects. The solar update will come later in the agenda. So we are currently finishing up the weight room floor. We replaced the floor and we repainted all the walls and fixed all of the grates. And the equipment is in the process of being moved back into the space tomorrow. Last year, the RV Sports Boosters generously provided almost $25,000 for new equipment in the space, and so this year the board had decided to go ahead and replace the floor. So at the next meeting, the board will approve the bill for this project, but we provided some preliminary pictures so that you could see the progress on that. We haven't replaced, like I said, we haven't moved in all of the equipment yet. And then also the diving board and stand were replaced in the pool. Not as exciting to look at, but you can notice that there's no rust. This was original from the renovation back in 2009, and so it had definitely reached its lifespan and needed to be replaced. At the next meeting, the board will also see the bill for this project as well. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Tammy, can you please scroll down to the before and after pictures for the weight room, please?
Looks great. I think it's
A little further down.
32.
You scroll up a little bit. Okay, so remember when we were putting in the new equipment, we identified that we had unlevel floor. We had some flooding in there previously, so there was some rust and things from the equipment. So we had some unsafe surfaces. We also had large platforms that were causing some tripping hazards off the racks. So what you see, that turf going down the middle is just that. It's like square pieces of turf that fit in like the rubber tiles. They have a rubber bottom to them, but so that athletes in PE classes can train down the middle of that turf while the other athletes are working out on the racks. So Ms. Fletcher is planning on doing some before and after pictures more on social media once the project is completely finished. And the diving board, as Dr. Smetana said, she showed you the new diving board. What the board needs to remember now is it's 2025. A lot of the renovation work was completed in 2009, 2010. So you're getting to like that 15-year threshold where like things are starting to be replaced. Whether it's, we know we got some time on the roofs, but like the diving boards, the starting blocks, HVAC units. So
We did the blocks last year, right? The blocks have been done.
This year.
Okay. This year?
This year. Earlier this in the, was that in the end of last summer?
It was earlier this year, and I believe they were installed in late January, early February, and we used a school maintenance grant for the diving board, the starting blocks, as well as the weight room.
We're also going to have to, within the next year or two, re-coat the pool. So we drain the pool like every year, and so we'll do that. We do that annually, but we're getting to a point where we're going to have to recoat the plaster. 16 years, some of the plaster, and some of that needs to be addressed. So there's just some ideas of some large capital projects that will need to occur over the probably the next 2 to 3 years.
Any questions or comments from anyone on that? No? Okay, we can move on. Dr. Freitas.
Greetings again, honorable board members. So starting off with teaching and learning, we have summer school coming up starting next week. As part of a summer school curriculum, we have credit recovery, courses for advancement such as health and U.S. government. We have enrichment courses, band, bridge to RB, Camp College. Pretty much every program runs Monday to Thursday, 8 to 12 or 12 to 4, depending on specific program. But we do ask that everyone sign up by May 30th. That is the deadline. But of course, if parents need a day or come Monday, we will support that as well. July 8th, as we've done in previous years, we'll be hosting our summer graduation before the Board of Education meeting. We usually have about a handful of students that do credit recovery in June and graduate, and that counts for our graduation rate for this previous year. The first day of school, can't believe I'm talking about it, will be on August 12th on Tuesday, and guys, it'll come faster than not. It'll come in a few weeks.
Is that our first board meeting is in August as well? I think August 12th?
It is.
Is it a Tuesday?
It is. I think it's the 12th.
Yeah, the 11th is the Institute, right?
Institute,
Dr.
you're
Freitas?
correct.
You
boss.
are correct.
Okay.
Under school culture and operation for the month of July, every Wednesday in July, you guys know is residency. Parents must complete the in-person, right, kind of submit their bills, identification, all that stuff, before they can receive an in-person date. So on the 9th, it'll be 8 to 2, starting in the cafeteria. On the 16th, it'll run from 11 to 7 in the caf. On the 23rd, 11 to 7 in the cafeteria. And on the 30th, 8 to 2 in the caf as well. Those are our in-person residency days. August 7th will be our freshman orientation, 10 to 11:30 in the main gym. And then August 20th is open house 2025-26 from 6 to 7:30, and that'll happen throughout the building. For activities and athletics, summer camp's right around the corner. I want to say next week we started with badminton and baseball, and of course almost every sport is covered. The first day of fall sports will be Monday, August 11th. And then here we go, September, the big homecoming. On the 19th, we have our homecoming game from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Canadian Athletic Complex. And following the game, the next day on the 20th, we will have our homecoming dance, 7 to 10 p.m., same at the stadium. And that concludes my principal's report.
Thank you. I hope you and everyone else are taking some well-deserved rest this summer.
You really ruined the mood tonight, Dr.
Right, they kind of brought everyone
I
down.
haven't even figured out how we're wrapping up this year, right? What are you talking about next? Just kidding. Thank you, Dr. Freitas.
We do not have any information items this evening, unless someone would like to add something for discussion later. Not seeing any. Visitor statements. Ms. White?
All right, I'm back. All right, sorry, I'm going to read this just to get all my points in. So Maggie White from Riverside. I'm here to provide some observation as the former board secretary of RBHS Music and Theater sponsors. First off, I'd like to thank our music teachers and theater directors for their long and tireless hours. I would also like to thank Dr. Freitas for his enthusiastic support and gratitude to Mr. Mann and Ms. Fletcher and building security. I sat here 2 years ago with 50 students and parents to provide public testimony over the drastic reduction in music teacher hours. Later that summer, FTE hours were restored, and Dr. Skinkis invited us to a sit-down and walked us through the calendar of staffing decisions. He also graciously offered his support of any facilities requests and has been true to his word. All requests and questions were promptly responded to, so thank you, Dr. Skinkis. So that was our only sit-down, and the agenda was set by the superintendent. But since we had only proven that we could get large populations to the board meetings, I knew we needed to create a history of positive results to be taken more seriously. 2 years later, we have awarded $18,000 in summer study grants to students, and we've just approved up to $5,000 in live streaming equipment for the auditorium. I had no doubt that we would achieve this, but that said, we spent a large chunk of time gathering and presenting data from experts and local schools on music staffing and what good could look like here. Knowing that a district goal was to increase two-way communication, we believed that our request for a two-way conversation was reasonable. This request was never granted, and we burned a lot of cycles, so let's talk about lost opportunity costs for a minute. In capital equipment, we would have loved more bandwidth to pursue an identified 34 potential grant providers to contribute matching funds for the piano. I'm thrilled that we approved the $5,000, but it's regrettable to think that we could have done much more sooner. Advocacy, instead of spending countless cycles appealing to the district, we could have been working together to help out in Springfield, namely the foreign language requirement that's going to affect students in a few years. And we've already had some success in Springfield on another matter. I hope this board will hold the school accountable to prepare students for the career world of the near future, which will bring about rampant adoption of AI and automation. Bringing back the fine arts survey would be helpful, as arts and humanities will be essential skills. Going forward, as we face uncertainty, the district is going to need to engage and embrace parent organizations to face whatever challenges come our way. So that concludes my remarks, and I don't have a pen, otherwise I would. Thank you.
Thank you, and
you,
forgive me,
Maggie.
I did forget to read the welcome statement, but you're an old hand
I
at this.
followed
and-
the rules, right?
I know, right? And everybody-
26 seconds to spare.
Okay. It is embedded in our
All
agenda,
right.
for the record. I apologize.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under old business, we do have an update, life safety items, capital improvement, sustainability.
Yes, I provided the board with the solar panel kickoff meeting, which was held on May 12th, as well as the tentative timeline for the project. There's really not a whole lot of new information in either of those reports, but I wanted to pass them along to the board. Additionally, last week, we had both an engineering site visit and a structural site visit. And this information will guide Heritage Solutions to begin to finalize the design of the solar panels. The goal is to have their design finalized in a rough draft before the end of June so that I can pass it along to the district's engineer to have them review it as well.
So thanks for sharing that. Were there any questions from anyone?
There were none submitted on this solar project.
Okay. Glad to see it's moving forward. Thank you. On the, I think Dr. Skink has addressed the policy issue 118. That's more of an August board meeting.
Correct.
And we need to have an advisory meeting beforehand, so that's.
I will have Ms. Molo send a doodle to you and Mr. Williams
Okay.
to get some dates.
Yeah, summer is hard. I'll speak for myself. It's hard to schedule, so if we could get that, that would be.
Yeah, sooner than later.
Yeah.
We'll do it via Zoom most likely, so.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Comfort facility dog.
I think we're
we have
going to
an
need a
action.
second read on this,
Yeah.
a third read. This is a second read. We're not ready to bring it tonight. Dr. Smetana was still finalizing some things with the contract and insurance, all moving in a positive direction, though, correct?
Correct. I do have the note that I typed is a little dated. I have some more information from today. So the district's liability insurance has confirmed that the Comfort Dog is covered under the district's current coverage. They strongly suggest having each family sign a waiver, so we're in the process of receiving that language from them so we can include it, I would imagine, in the residency event. And then we did hear back from Canines for Comfort in regards to their contract. They are not able to comply with the insurance requirements or the liability requirements. And so this means in the event something happens, the liability would fall to our insurance. And I've verified again that we would be covered. This is what we anticipated. So the next step would be to set up a meeting with Canines for Comfort, which I'm in the process of doing to finalize the contract language and then bring forward for approval on June 10th.
We met this morning with, Tuesdays is when I do a lot of every Tuesday is when I do my building meetings with my different teams and department heads. And we did verify this morning, Mr. Bannon is still, him and his family are still agreeable to be the primary caretaker for the dog. And we confirmed that the two backups are still on board, so everything seems to be moving in the right direction. We anticipated that, we know our attorney is he is pretty consistent with the indemnification insurance language and things in a lot of these contracts, and so we anticipated that being a non-for-profit, there would be probably not be able to do some of the things we requested, but having Kristen confirm with insurance is key. And so we're hopeful to bring this in July.
Were the language edits done by our lawyer, by the insurance company?
Both looked at it.
Okay, just one.
Logistically, how do you get all the students to do a waiver? We're talking about every student in the school?
Yes, each family would do it. I assume that it would go through the residency event. That's typically when we need something signed.
I see.
Systematically how we do it.
I'd say it's no different than every family signing for the student handbook.
I
You know,
see.
we can make a station, the waiver, they all sign. We do that.
I think there's a photography waiver,
Yeah,
isn't that?
Yeah, the photography waiver, handbook waiver. Yeah, it should be a smooth process if approved.
And as you see, kind of the picture that Ms. Molo is presenting, we think, I'm saying we think, we're not 100% sure, but we think there's a good chance we could get Harley, but it's not guaranteed, so I don't want to overpromise. That's Harley in the top right corner. And then, as you see, that's the 3 canine dogs just this past week for finals. And we just have handlers out there with them in the atrium, and kids come up and sit down and pet them and just kind of chill a little bit and just take a, it just seems to have a positive impact on them. And then Dr. Freitas, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I completely support, comfort, the dogs. I mean, of course, ultimately the board is, but I think it'd be a benefit if it'll add an extra layer of service. I think it'll complement really what our student services department does in making sure all of our students are emotionally stable and supported. This will add an extra level of comfort and support.
So we're thinking July board is the most likely scenario for that, so
Right.
for school in the fall. Okay. So everyone, if you have questions, this is your last chance, last window to ask any questions
I'm
about
looking at
the
Dr.
puppies.
Santana because she pushed it to June, after June. No.
I did not push this after.
No, thank you, Dr. Santana. We'll bring it home. Okay, the new student board members is next.
We already approved the student advisors, and then we have, this is a Dr. Smetana item, I believe, the transfer of interest.
And there was one question, Dr. Santana, you'll address that, correct?
I believe so. If not, I'm happy to answer additional questions. So annually, the district transfers interest earned in the debt service fund to the educational fund. We do this every year at this time of year. The ed fund is the fund that's in most need of additional resources. That's where most of our expenditures come out of. The amount of interest earned this fiscal year to date on interest in investments in just debt services was $171,792. So I'm recommending that the board approves the transfer tonight, plus any additional interest earned in this account between now and June 30th. I don't anticipate any. That's just helpful to have as a placeholder in case something should arise. So as some additional background, we earn interest on all of the fund balances for the district put together, and then it's distributed to the individual funds based off of the percentage basis of what that fund represents for the whole for the district. So in total, the district earned $1.2 million this year on interest on investment. This is just the amount sitting in debt service, and it's the only amount that we transfer each year to a different fund.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? You want to do a first read on this, or can we move forward? We should move forward to get it done at the end of the fiscal year, I would suggest.
The board's comfortable, it'd be good to approve tonight.
Any objections?
No.
It's fine.
Good. The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the transfer of interest earnings in the debt service fund to the education fund as presented in the May 27, 2025 board agenda packet.
Second?
Second from Mr. Durkin, and we do need a roll call.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes?
Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Salas?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
The next item is
And
the...
Ms. Gasko. Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, I apologize. Ms. Gasko.
Yes.
Motion carries. Just feel like I'm on my summer already, clearly. Tentative budget for '26.
Dr. Smetana is going to walk you through a few items tonight. I would encourage the board, tonight will be the first time some of you are seeing this, especially for the new board members. Mr. Caputo, you're on the Finance Council, so you've seen this once. But I would take the next 2 weeks or so to go through, especially the assumptions. Dr. Smetana will cover these tonight. But again, we approve a tentative budget in June just so that it's a weird cycle, I know, right? Like our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30th, but the state requirement has you file your final budget by September 30th. So there's some definite overlap, but we need to approve a tentative budget, and we post it publicly, and we update any changes publicly online. So that's up there all summer so that we can continue to operate the school, get ready for the next school year, and making purchases, charging it to the next fiscal year budget. The real work on this budget, not real work, I shouldn't say that, because a lot of work has gone into this. A lot of the changes from what you're seeing now and what you'll see in June will really occur more in August when Dr. Smetana has time to get the June 30th actuals from the Township Treasurer Office. We'll never receive those because the way the fiscal year ends on June 30th, and then with the July 4th holiday, the Township Treasurer and people's vacations doesn't usually get us the June 30th actuals of how we wrapped up every account for the fiscal year till like mid-July. So in August, you'll get like 2 financial reports. You'll get one for July, and you'll also get the June one from the Township Treasurer, okay? Then we'll make adjustments to the budget in August. That will sit out there publicly again till September, and we won't approve it. We'll do a budget hearing in September. So there's plenty of opportunities for the board to see this. Once in May, once in June, once in July, once in August, and approve it, hopefully finally approve it in September. And at all that time, there is a copy of this available online on our website as well. Dr. Smetana, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you. As Dr. Skink has said, the actuals for revenue and expenditure are as reported as April 30th, and since there are still 2 months remaining in the current fiscal year, many items are not finalized, so some we can predict and some we can't at this point. So when looking over the tentative budget for the first time, the best place to start is by looking at the revenue and expenditure assumptions, as those are the bigger items that impact the budget. So I'd like to take a minute to highlight some of those. So Ms. Muller, if you could go to page 173 in board book. You'll see on the revenue side, the biggest item, our biggest revenue is real estate taxes. Right now I have them budgeted at 97% collection rate for the levied amount. The levy amount is what we ask for. It's not necessarily the amount that we receive. So I'm anticipating 97% collection rate. It doesn't mean we don't ever get that other 3%, but in looking at the last 2 years, we budgeted 99% and we didn't hit that target. And so I'd like to try to bump this up to 98%, but I want to see where we finish this fiscal year first before we make a decision. Every 1% is about $260,000 in operating funds. That doesn't include our debt service levy. Title grants are federal money. This is cost neutral to the district, even though it won't look like it in the budget, and the tricky part is because they span 2 fiscal years. So we typically will get reimbursed for our expenditures in April through June, in the next fiscal year in July, and so that's what causes them to not necessarily match exactly in the budget. Services provided to other districts, food service is Quest. So what that is we provide provide food service for our satellite schools, and what used to happen is Quest, our food service provider, would bill us, and then we would turn around and bill the satellite schools and recover that money. This year, the model changed in the middle of the year, and now all the schools are billed directly. So you'll see that on the expenditure side as well. The expenditure side will be 0. We do receive some commission for doing that. This year was about $25,000 for providing that and using our equipment and our building for that. Corporate personal property replacement tax, CPPRT. I have that decreased based off of what I anticipate as the fiscal year 25 actuals. We are expecting one more payment, hopefully this month, which would bring the actuals to this year around $540,000. The tricky part with this is the actual amount isn't released to August, so right now it's a little bit of a guess, but that's where I think it's going to come in at. And then lastly on the revenue side, interest on investment. I held it flat from what we budgeted this year due to the market impact from interest rates and inflation. The investment cycle is March through February, so we've already started to see a significant increase in that last quarter of our investments, and so our estimate is based off of that. On the next page are...
Before we go to expenditures, Dr. Smetana, just one thing I'd point out to the board members, just a reminder, third assumption, Although it wasn't covered, we're not expecting significant change. Evidence-based funding, you know, in education, we love our acronyms. So EBF, that is the primary funding source. You'll hear that talked about at the school board conference. You'll see that in literature you receive about evidence-based funding, and the governor continuing to put $350 million every year towards evidence-based funding. Here's all I would prepare you for. We've talked a little bit about that. And if you're following what's going on in the state of Illinois, financial hardships are probably at some point coming towards the state of Illinois. They already know that he's talking about a fiscal cliff. So what we have to be prepared for is if they impact any of that evidence-based funding. Now, nothing has been sent out, so this is strictly a speculation, but we should be we should keep an eye on our EBF. I anticipate one of two things. Either they start to adjust that formula to where they don't keep continually putting $350 million of new money each year into that, or they'll stick with that, but they'll somewhat backdoor you in the way of they're going to have you pay for more or something else. This could be an area where they could try to have us start to cover pensions, a small portion of pension payment, or passing on some of the pension payment. Hey, we'll continue to fund EBF, but we're going to have districts pick up a X amount or a percentage of pension. That could be something. Maybe it won't, but there has. I mean, I could just see from the literature the superintendents are starting to receive from the state superintendent some fiscal tightening of the fiscal straps is coming. So that would be the one area it would address.
Would that apply like across the board, every school district pay the same percentage?
I don't know how that would apply. Right now with EBF, we qualify to get some of the highest payment every year,
right,
or some of the other districts get some of the lowest. So I don't know how they're planning on. That's a great question, because if you're not getting a lot of money from the state, how could they pass on?
Right.
Right. I'm not sure. That's just been something that's come up. There has to, if in order for the governor to continue to fund the EBF model, they're going to have to, whether it's transportation, categoricals, something, they're going to have to give somewhere.
So if I could add just some additional commentary, is that they are scheduled to adjourn by the end of this week, and the knowledge I had today is that there's not been a state budget bill introduced as of yet. So I think there's also some speculation that there'll be a temporary budget passed, and maybe once federal impact is more strongly realized on the healthcare side, perhaps come back in the fall. I think I think it's appropriate to be conservative with this number because there's a fair amount of uncertainty. That's my read on it.
Thank you, Dr. Fontana. We'll go to expenditures.
So on the next page, you'll see some of the expenditure assumptions. The biggest expenditure is staffing and benefits. There are several different line items throughout the entire budget. That accounts for at least 80% of our budget. So the first line item, when you look at certified staffing salaries, I anticipate this year coming in a little under budget, which is why the percent increase is only showing 2.63% and not higher. We're also trying to contain some staffing costs by not filling retirements with full-time personnel unless student course selections indicate that that's needed. Insurance costs, medical and dental, the increase is due both to staffing as well as changes in premium rates. So you can see our PPO is going up almost 5%, our HMO is 8.2%, and our dental rate is 4%. Textbook expenditures increased to reflect the board approved textbook adoption and replacement and repairs, which Kylie Lindquist presented to the board in the spring. The big increase is due to a new math curriculum and the 5-year licenses associated with that. So I don't anticipate that being a consistent cost from year to year. As I mentioned, salaries, the next line item to highlight is the non-certified salaries, ESP salaries, so that's our support personnel. Those changes are due to reflect the contract as well as staffing changes. Stipends are set to increase at 3%, but then I also accounted for new stipends based off of the student participation this year. So it's not set in stone if they had high participation this year and they got an additional stipend, but I wanted to budget for those that we were aware of, so that if they do continue to have high participation, that's covered in the budget. Airmark is our purchase service for maintenance and custodial facilities. That will be increasing to reflect contractual agreement, which is tied to CPI with a floor and a ceiling of 2 to 4%. And then solar panels, the last item is some capital items. So solar panels, the estimated cost for this upcoming fiscal year is $825,000. If you remember, we paid a down payment of about $225,000 this year, and then the remaining part will hit in fiscal year 27. Plus $100,000 for Ellett Park improvements. We initially had budgeted for it this year, and we will actually be paying for that next fiscal year. And then $200,000 for the Little Theater HVAC unit. That's worst case scenario, but we are working through, right now the heat exchanger broke, and so we are working through whether or not it makes sense to do a repair or if it makes sense to do a replacement based off of the lifespan of the Little Theater unit. So that is worst case scenario if we had to replace it. So that's a current placeholder in the budget, and hopefully as we work through that process, I'll be able to finalize that before the budget gets finalized. Moving on to the summary page. So this is the last page I want to cover tonight. On the next page, you'll see that the district is anticipating a deficit next year of $1,247,204. As we've said multiple times, this will change as the budget's finalized over the next few months. But this budget, this deficit is, significantly, if you think about what I just said, solar panels are $825,000. So that will hit this year's budget, which accounts for a significant portion of that deficit, as well as lowering the collection of property tax to $97,000. If we can raise that to 97%. If we raise it to 98%, it'll provide an additional $260,000. And then we can try to refine the budget to get closer to a balanced budget, assuming we can, assuming we know we've earmarked those things. If you were to not consider those things, it would be somewhat more of a balanced budget. At the June board meeting, as Dr. Skinkis said, you'll see this updated with May 30th or May 31st actuals, and then if, depending on what those show, if there's any necessary changes, it'll be made and presented to the board at that time as well.
When will the board see the black boxes?
Thank you. So the black boxes the board will see in August. So the reason we black that out is because those, if you look at it, it says beginning fund balance as of July 1, 2025. Right now, I could give you the fund balances. I reported out on them earlier, but they're going to change in the next 2 months. The ed fund alone will probably change by probably $4 million. So it doesn't make sense to update that and not have accurate information. So we always wait until we close out the fiscal year, and then we put in those fund balances, and then you'll see what our projected fund balances will be at the end of fiscal year 26.
Thank you, Dr. Smetana. Let's all take a deep breath when you see the $1.2 million deficit. Let me give you the back of the envelope, kind of like layman's breakdown of this now, okay? 1.2 million, let's just use round numbers. 850 is solar. We went down at 1 percentage point, so 250 is a property tax collection, went from 98 or 99, went down to 97, so let's say 250. So 850 and 250, that would already get us to 1.1 million. So really our operating deficit's about $100,000 on a $33 million budget, right? We're doing well with our managing our expenditures and how we're moving our money. The thing that I want you to be prepared for, though, or understand, the 850 from the solar. So this board made a decision. We took out the bonds to pay for the culinary lab. We're going to pay them off in short-term, their short-term bonds. So the 850, the reason we chose not to put the money for the bonds or for the solar panels in bonds and pay them off and to take them out of our operating funds is because within the next 5 years we should make back the cost of the money that it costs to put the solar panels in, next 5 to 7 years between electricity savings, right? So it's a return on investment. So we'll eventually earn this money back, and then we'll be making money additionally after that by having electricity savings. So it's important to say that on TV, it's important to say that to you so the public understands. Because when I see 1.2 million, I've prided myself on making sure we are fiscally responsible. And when you start running deficits, 1.2 turns to 2.2, right? And before you know it, you're running down your fund balance, and we're back to where we were when I got here in 2011 or 2012. We're not on pace for that right now. So I thought it was important for me to just do that quick airplane analysis for the board and for those watching on TV.
I'd like to add two things too. The other reason we didn't take out bonds is because then we can capitalize on the incentives that are available for solar, because we needed to use dollars that were taxable. And issuing non-taxable bonds wouldn't have helped us capitalize on those incentives, and so it would have taken longer to recover the money. The other thing too is I don't have a number yet, but I do anticipate, I'll have a much better sense at the next board meeting, but I do anticipate finishing this year with a surplus, and we are projected to do a $1.2 million deficit this year because of solar and because of Eller. So all we're doing is shifting what we thought was this year was going to be the deficit year to next year. So this year finishing with the surplus, where any money that we get from the surplus will just go into those individual accounts, and it'll be used towards expenditures in the future.
I think this was covered before, but you said 5 to 7 years on the solar panels as far as paying off what we're paying for them. What's the life of the solar panels? Is it 30 years? I vaguely remember that.
It's between 20 and 30. I know that.
20, 30 years.
I thought it was, I thought it was 25 off the top of my head.
All right, so we should be in the spot.
And then in the future, we save about the anticipated amounts and savings on electricity is 18%.
Right, I remember that. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on the preliminary budget? And like everyone has said, we'll keep looking at this over the next few months. This is not our only visit of this document. It's a lot of information here, and I would also offer up Dr. Smetana with specific questions if you need to get them answered. Moving on to the IGA with West 40.
This is more of a annual practice. The Board of Education, just so again, reiterate to everybody, the Board of Education, we are a member of District 208, it's a member of West 40, West Cook. It's called West 40 because there's 40 school districts. Back in the day, they used to be called the Regional Office of Education. Now they're called the Intermediate Service Centers. They do receive some state funding. We use 2 specific programs. We also participate in several other programs through West 40. Kylie Lindquist serves as our representative on the West 40 board. But they process all of our teaching certifications, our applicant, make sure that their licensures are up to date, sub-certificates, things like that. West 40 Regional Safe Schools Program is an alternative school that we use in the event of somebody that is not being successful at RB or has had a disciplinary incident to where they need an alternative setting. So the West 40 Regional Schools Program is one of the options that we have to still provide student services, but also get them to a new location to where they can maybe be more successful. The rate is $115 per student. That has not changed. That's what's still on the agreement. And so that's only paid if we have a student placed there and for the number of days they're placed there. The other program is the Alternative Learning Opportunities Program, which is called ALOP. This is the funding for this. Kristen could maybe elaborate on this, but this is a program that we use, and Dr. Freitas and his MTSS teams, the multi-tiered support services between student services, social workers. We have 2 workers from West 40 that are permanently in our building, but they specifically work with our students that are like school refusal, attendance problems. They need RAP services to where maybe someone's working with the family at night to try to have the student be more successful during the day. So all that is purchased through this ALOP program through West 40. So it's technically an annual function that we budget for every year, but just to be transparent, I ask the board to always approve the intergovernmental agreement on an annual basis. Dr. Freitas or Dr. Smetana, anything you want to add?
No, you covered it well. You know, we had 2 advocates, you know, that support our needier students that struggle with attendance, you know, behavior or grades, and did that extra support, did that extra reminder that help our kids, you know, not only get to class but pass and kind of start, you know, following right out of our school expectations. So they've been a great help since we've had them here.
And I think our track record on our alternative placement through them has been also very successful, right? I think we've been able to return and pick.
Correct.
I don't think we've had a negative experience.
Never a negative experience. All the students that have gone to a safe school have come back, have graduated, you know, so it's been a positive partnership.
How often is it utilized? How often have we sent students?
We, you know, like it's a great year, Patrick, if we don't use it ever.
Right.
Right, so it's only in the event of expulsion or, so
Right.
we're talking maybe 1 to 2 kids a year. And it's maybe for a semester or a quarter.
And so, yeah, what's the, like, that was the next question is, you know, they charge per day. So what's the typical length? You're saying a quarter?
Quarter to a semester. I mean, unless we have a student that, I mean, historically, if I just off, I mean, at one point we will have a student that's maybe expelled for a year or a full school year, equivalent of 2 semesters. That's a really bad disciplinary incident.
Sure.
But the history of during my time here is the board is always, unless it is absolutely something that we cannot support, where the board has the opportunity to expel a student for up to 2 years and not provide any services. The history here and my philosophy is, you know, that's kind of like I don't want to say death penalty, that's a bad. So we've always tried to come up with alternative services. So the board is always, so historically it's usually a quarter or a semester.
We have even had a student or 2 request an extra semester because it was a safe setting for them, and they did very well. And the school, you know, was amenable to that because, you know, it was geared to those students.
So my question was only on the tuition, and the fact that it hasn't stayed is interesting. I think that it stayed constant. I expect most things to creep up. I'm not asking to pay more money. I just thought it was interesting that it had.
Are there other funding sources beyond each district paying into per day, per student?
I do think they get some state funding, as well as I know they are also doing some consulting for CPS, where I think they've generated some revenue from that. But the staffing at West 40 has increased, as well as the services being provided. So they have to have some sources of revenue.
They clearly would have to.
Right.
More than $115 a day. Right?
Well, and you can't predict. It would be a lot harder to predict.
Is there a new facility open?
I'll give you an example, West 40. So they bought the school in Maywood. That's now the new intermediate service center. They bought an actual school. At one point in time, West 40 was in an office in this building. It was one office with an administrator and like one secretary, and that was the regional office of education. Then it moved to somewhere in Maywood, and then or Proviso, and then Maywood. But now they actually have an actual full-blown school building that they bought, renovated, run classes, an alternative school. They have an alternative site now, and recently they have just partnered up with the State Board of Education. I believe they will be serving as the administrative agent to run the it's going to be an alternative school for wards of the state for St. Joe's IHM campus. They'll be running that, so they're supposed to be working as the state's administrative agent to help operate that as well.
So is that open yet? That's not
It's not
open.
open.
Okay.
So the board could, if I mean, this is one of those, you always have a right to look at something twice. If you feel comfortable, we could approve it tonight. A roll call would be necessary.
What are the thoughts from everyone? Do we want to approve this tonight, or you want another week to look at it? A few weeks?
Approve it.
We can approve it.
Okay, thanks.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois approves the intergovernmental agreement fiscal year 26 between West 40 and School District 208 for the purpose of placing students into the West 40 Regional Safe Schools program with the tuition of $115 per day and/or Alternative Learning Opportunities program as presented in the May 27, 2025 board agenda packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Durkin, and we do need a roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Salas,
Yes.
Mr. Novak,
Yes.
Ms. Ruska,
Yes.
Ms. Gaska,
Yes.
Mr. Durkin,
Yes.
Mr. Caputo.
Yes.
Under Board of Education discussion items, we included, once again, the district goals. We had a longer discussion about the district goals in April, I believe, when Dr. Freitas and the team presented out on each of those. There have been some preliminary discussions with IASB about setting, hopefully, a Saturday for this board to meet and discuss, facilitated discussion about district board, district goals, and operational matters. So Dr. Skinkis, what is your intention for this tonight? Just to
And I just
review?
wanted the board to see, so, obviously the district goals are all the way up at the top. Then what's been happening on an annual basis is the administration addresses what we feel is a priority under each of those administrative goals, and we create a SMART goal and then some action steps. And we leave these on the committee of the whole agendas, this being the last committee of the whole meeting for the year. For any updates or questions, we try to include little status updates completed, ongoing, more information needed, things like that. And then in April, we provide to the board a detailed report of all the action steps that were completed and whether or not we achieved our SMART goal. Purpose of tonight's discussion is I need some preliminary direction from the board on the priorities and areas of focus for FY26. Now, this is an interim framework that for the board until they were able to conduct our retreat. So my thoughts on looking at these goals, they're very general. The SMART goals, I still think there's some work that can be done with the ACT and the MTSS. We can still do some work with our diversity committees. Ms. Fletcher and I are already talking about some things we're going to update with community engagement and doing more branding. So there's enough here where we don't have to update the SMART goal at this time. I guess what I'm saying to you, it would not, usually when June, July, and August is when my team's working on their new SMART goals, and then we update the board in August or September of like, here's the SMART goals we're addressing this year. It wouldn't make any sense for them to put that time in and then the board have a retreat in August or September and refine the goals or change something. So I think for the time being, my recommendation would be continue to, status quo with these SMART goals. If there's some areas where we feel we can improve on, let's continue to refine those areas and address those areas until the board's able to conduct their retreat and refine the goals. And then we can revisit whether a SMART goal is needed for the remainder of this school year, or if we set new SMART goals early next spring, we just provide an updates on things we're working on. There's always work to be done in these areas, so it's not like the general board goal can be, right? There's going to be enough to update the Board of Education. I don't want you to think we're taking a year off, but I also don't want to do work go in one direction and we change it in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I asked that to be on there tonight.
So in conversation with Kylie, when we were going through some of the notes in the curriculum advisory council, I think there's a place where Kylie was bringing up with the switch back to the ACT and some of our student achievement and meeting, progress, benchmark, that benchmark. And she did talk about how those scores in the test and getting the students back in that transition kind of speaks to that goal. So I'm not quite sure when that would be presented. And, I know Kylie had mentioned that there is talk among the different heads and how they're using that data and moving forward, looking at some of our annual benchmark data.
Our annual benchmark data is reported out in October like it is annually.
Okay.
So the board will get the more detailed version than the curriculum council got, as I stated earlier. But what I'm saying too is I think we can still do under like Kylie's action steps, those 4 things listed in the blue category, there's still work that could be done on those to where we don't have to write a new SMART goal just yet while the board has time to do their retreat and redefine some things.
Or even if they're gathering more evidence or more,
Right.
doing more with that SMART goal, because she did speak to that.
Right, like Dr. Freitas, under communication, can continue to host some parent universities in 25, 26. All right, we could work on the surveys, or we can work on the increase the volume content to help us brand better. I mean, there's things I can do under these SMART goals and these action steps for another year.
I think a really good thing to look at is which of these goals are now going to be institutionalized. So for example, with the parent university, is that something that is now going to be a part of RB moving forward, right? And that way we don't have to have it in our SMART goals for next year, but because it was so wildly successful this school year, it's something that worked and you want to keep it going for next year.
Okay.
So maybe take the summer to review which of these goals could now move into being a regular part of
Because there's
RB
probably
programming.
some refinement, and to use parent university, right? Some of them were less successful than others, perhaps. Maybe it's, as they get incorporated into the calendar, what areas need to be added. So maybe the goal ultimately is, review parent outreach efforts and determine what's missing.
Right, and to continue teasing this goal out, another one of the goals was administer surveys throughout the school year. Take a look at the surveys. What were the results,
Yeah.
right? How can we continue to improve Parent University based on? So, I guess now is okay, so now what? Now what are we going to do with these goals?
Well, I think we had some of that discussion when they were here. So I think my inclination for this is to have the team kind of continue as they described it in April and give us that chance to have the board retreat. In my opinion, we're not going to sit down and throw any of these SMART goals out. We spent so much time on them, but they'll maybe need some wordsmithing and some refinement and, in light of where we are. But if the question from Dr. Skinkis is, full speed ahead on these, I think soft walking it is probably the right approach. But that's my thought.
I'm curious about in the first action step, the data, the relevant student data about academic achievement, academic interventions, that type of thing. I'm new here, but is it all just ACT, SAT, or what are the other relevant student data we're looking at?
Right, so we do have some additional data like the Curriculum Council saw, like DF report. We have a STAR report where they do math and reading, annual progress monitoring.
What about like AP testing? Do we get
Yes,
that data?
all that will come out in October. The board will see how many students took AP tests, how many students took AP classes, how many of those students took the test, and how many of those got a 3 or better. We'll have it.
Do we have historical data with that too, to see how we're doing AP wise?
Yes.
Because there's obviously a lot of AP tests that just happened. So.
Yes, we do have historical.
Okay.
And we try to always keep that every 3 to 5 years. We update the charts.
I mean, that's a good question, and even, Kylie, or even talking with Ms. Augustine, talking about some of the programs have expanded to help students with executive functioning. So not just using tests to get data and that, where some of the students might do well on testing, but they're not doing their homework, or they fall off task. And so, and tracking those kind of results. And so as a board, we can start to say, what's additional data that helps us know, the kids beside test data?
Sure.
Because you can learn to take a test, but maybe it's not helping. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from the board is continue to refine, tweak, review the presentation we got in April and the SMART goals that were presented for the 24-25 school year. Help use that to guide us as we enter into 25-26 until we get more of see if there's any changes at the board.
And then I would say, as we move into the retreat, can we get an update on what you have found on these goals so that now we're making informed decisions at our retreat?
Yeah, now remember, the board's goals are the top. right? And then what's happened is the SMART goals, the admin have written a SMART goal to say like, hey, this is something that falls under, whether it's academics, which is blue, or communication, or diversity and equity, or financial, and the other one is facilities, right? So those are like if you think about the main advisory councils for the board. And so the boards the administration takes that general board goal and comes back and says, hey, this is something that needs to be a priority for us this year, right? So at some point, like if we thought about with Kristen's purple goal, at some point we're going to have to start talking about a long range and a short range plan of financing all these different capital improvements we're going to need, right? Whether it's HVAC units, the resurfacing of the pool, the roofs, right? So like that would be an example of a SMART goal where she's going to use a year to bid that out, work with the construction manager, come up with financing out, right? So the same would happen, I think, with each of these individual goals. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, like, okay, well, what's next? So that's kind of what's come from the administration is, here's what we think is a big thing we need to work on, and it falls under the boards, explore how to maximize curricular opportunities. In turn, the board may say, hey, we want to go full steam ahead on dual credit, or we want to go full speed ahead on AP like Patrick, or just whatever, right? That's where the discussion would occur. Until you guys have your retreat, we can't go have that back and forth.
But I think maybe what, Lorena, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe what Ms. Yaskask is looking for is we've had these goals in place for 3 years, right? So we had action steps for 23, 24, 24, 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. So at the risk of making this a horrific document, and it already is a horrible document, maybe we need to say, what were all the action steps taken for the individual goals since we adopted them? Is that
The SMART goal has changed each year.
no, the SMART goal itself has stayed consistent.
No. The SMART goal
The
changed.
Board of Education goal has stayed
The only
consistent.
thing that has stayed
The SMART
consistent
goal,
is
okay.
the top row. So like
You're
when
right.
you think about the SMART goal for the blue box, the original one for like 22, 23 was buying that panorama dashboard where there was a way for us to track students' attendance, academics, and social emotional learning. So we
But I
used a
think we
year
need
to like
I
lay all
think
that
I'd
out.
like to see all of that.
Yes.
I
all
could get
of
you a
it.
different
Yeah.
copy of each sheet. I
Well,
don't
that's
know
maybe
if
what it
we
is,
have-
like Board of
right.
Education Goal 1, here are the different SMART goals and action steps for Board of Education Goal 1.
But that still doesn't give me any direction
No, it
for the
doesn't.
summer.
It doesn't.
It helps you for your retreat.
Well, there is. I mean, I'm thinking ahead to the retreat
Here's
already.
your
and kind of
summer
frame the
direction. Your
discussion.
summer direction is put together an update on these action steps, right? Like, I want to know what the survey results were. It's good that it's on here to say.
I think those were
administ-
reported in April, though.
Then I'd like to see them going
Again?
into the retreat. To have
I
it
got you.
all, to have it
To
all
have it in.
together.
Right, yes. I'll put it all together. What I'm saying to you, though, is that still doesn't give what I'm talking about with my team is,
For 25, 26.
I don't need
what
them
would-
working on something we've done already in the past. I'm trying to say, like, let's
right.
look at what we've done, like, take these current SMART goals. There's probably some things we have seen from this data we can still be doing in 25, 26 or get better at.
And I guess that's what I
Not write
wanna
a new
know.
SMART goal for 26, 27.
But I think an anthology almost of, like you said, this is year 3, we just take student progress because that's easier. Some of the ones, like we have the new system, so let's put that down so that we're not suggesting, hey, we need a system to start tracking data. We have that, we're using that, let's capture it somewhere. So, this is the document we look at, but there should be almost like an appendix that lives somewhere that tracks those things that we've added on.
So if you look at that, I think we're all saying, if you look at that SMART goal, the second sentence says using the panorama dashboard to identify and respond. So that was from the previous year. So
Right.
we implemented the panorama dashboard to now track the transition from SAT to AC.
So I'll be honest, this document is so hard to read, right? And we've always had that kind of reaction.
tricky.
So I think you're hearing some pushback because of that. But I think if we had, literally 5 different pages, right? And again,
Gotcha.
we're getting ahead to the retreat. So Board of Education goal is maximizing curricula days. And then the SMART goals that have been reviewed year over year, the various action steps, because you're right, some action steps, some SMART goals have gotten a little bit more attention than others, and that's the nature of a dynamic organization, right? But I think you need to be able to, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to go back and buy something new, and especially for, as you know, board members transition, it's good to know, oh, we looked at this 2 years ago. You know, we did do a survey of surveys, and the response was not great. I'm making this up, right? So why would we do a survey of surveys? Again, let's think of some other way to communicate externally.
And we want to make sure we're still using the stuff. Like, we got a system to collect
Yeah.
data. Are we still using it? Is it still valuable? Yeah.
So that was more my mind dump for the retreat. I think to answer your immediate question, I think you have the direction you need, which is no one's looking to throw this out, kind of business as usual for the summer until
Refine
there's
and
some.
regroup on
Yeah.
these until further notice.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
There you go.
Yeah. Anything more on that? Good. And it has proven difficult to schedule with IASB, so that may end up being more of a September.
Well, that's all I'm
project
saying.
too,
If that leads us into a fall retreat,
Right.
we're already, from an administrative standpoint, being 12-month administrative,
Right.
3 or 4 months into our new year. Like, it doesn't help us to give us a new goal in September, October, so
Yep, understood.
focus on these.
Understood. But they also have game plans for next year, so
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
can weave the two together.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any items for future meetings from the Board of Ed? Not seeing any. We will move on to matters for closed session, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, student discipline, individual student matters, purchase, sale, or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiations, and school safety.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering the closed session matters as presented in the May 27, 2025 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
A second from Mr. Williams, and we need a roll call, please.
Mr. Caputo.
Yes.
Mr. Durkin.
Yes.
Ms. Gaska.
Yes.
Ms. Ruska.
Yes.
Mr. Novak.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
Yes. Okay.
30?